Eli stood at the edge of the bustling terminal, his hands gripping the straps of his worn bag. Around him, the station hummed with life. Merchants haggling in a dozen languages, children chasing each other past the legs of busy travelers, and diplomats walking with careful purpose, their uniforms pristine against the gray metallic floors. The air smelled faintly of fuel and antiseptic, mixed with the tang of recycled oxygen. It was a station built for efficiency, a hub at the edge of human-colonized space, but today it felt impossibly crowded. He checked the departure board again. Every seat on the next ship to Earth had been sold weeks ago. He had waited too long, thinking he could secure a last-minute ticket without trouble, but the final call had come too late. "Fully booked," the automated voice in his ear had said, cutting off his last hope. He ran a hand through his dark hair and groaned. Eli wasn't someone used to luck. His life had always been a series of calculations and workarounds, solving problems with logic and patience. As an engineer, he was known for being precise, reliable, and often overlooked. People rarely noticed him, and that suited him fine. Today, however, he wished someone would notice him enough to offer a miracle. The crowd surged as another flight prepared to board. Eli edged closer to the line of passengers, scanning for any sign of an opening. Every face he passed seemed focused on their own journey, their own worries, leaving him feeling smaller with each step. He took a deep breath and muttered to himself, "There has to be a way." Her robes, subtly ornate yet practical, marked her as someone of importance. Not royalty from the old tales, perhaps, but still someone whose presence drew attention. Her gaze was calm, steady, and scanning the passengers like a strategist evaluating terrain. Eli froze. Something about the way she walked made him think she belonged somewhere far beyond this crowded terminal, someone accustomed to decision-making that affected more than herself. The line pressed forward. Eli shuffled along, his bag bouncing against his shoulder, and for a moment he thought about turning back. There was nothing left for him here. All hope had evaporated. Then a hand brushed his, delicate but firm. He looked up to see the woman staring directly at him. There was a quiet intensity in her eyes, a weight of purpose that made Eli feel suddenly seen. "Come with me," she said. Her voice was calm, confident, and entirely unafraid of the crowd pressing around them. He hesitated. The instinct to refuse to stay invisible battled with the small spark of possibility she offered. But something in her gaze told him she wouldn't let him walk away. She extended her hand again, and with a nervous swallow, he took it. The moment their fingers touched, the noise of the terminal seemed to fade. It was brief, almost imperceptible, but the world shifted slightly. Where there had been only chaos, now there was clarity. He felt a strange surge of courage he hadn't known he possessed, and he allowed himself to be led. Through the throng, she moved effortlessly, a path opening before her as if the crowd knew to make way. Eli stumbled a few steps, then caught himself, keeping pace. She didn't speak again until they reached a small side passage, hidden from the main line. Here the staff checked her identification and gave a nod of respect, the kind reserved for someone known and unchallenged. Eli followed, feeling like he had stepped into a world far above his own. How?" he asked, words catching in his throat. She glanced at him with a small, knowing smile. "Some things aren't for explanation. Some things just happen." The hum of the engines vibrated through the floor as the vessel detached from the station, slipping into the darkness between stars. Eli stared out the window, watching the station shrink into a dot, the stars stretching ahead like diamonds scattered on black velvet. His heart raced, not from fear, but from the incredible impossibility of his situation. How had he ended up here? And why had she chosen him? The woman turned to him. "I am Princess Alara," she said simply, as if that explained everything. "And you are." "We'll need that." Eli felt a sudden bond with the princess, not because he knew her, but because they were now tied together by circumstance. By chance. By fate. As the ship climbed out of orbit, Alara stood and began moving toward the observation deck. Eli followed, compelled more by curiosity than by protocol. The view was breathtaking, planets and moons passing below like ornaments, the blackness of space stretching infinitely beyond. He felt the vastness pressing in, a reminder of how small humans were in the universe. Yet beside him, Alara did not seem small at all. She was resolute, confident, human in a way that challenged the emptiness around them. "Why did you choose me?" Eli asked, keeping his voice low. "Because you see what others do not," she replied. Her gaze didn't leave the stars. "And because sometimes the smallest difference can change everything." Maybe she knew humans had a knack for finding solutions where others failed. He felt both nervous and honored. The cabin lights dimmed slightly as the ship accelerated. The hum of the engines became a steady rhythm, almost hypnotic. Passengers dozed, the soft vibration of the ship lulling them into a sense of safety. Eli, however, couldn't sleep. He kept glancing at Alara, wondering what dangers lay ahead and why he had been chosen to face them. Hours passed, the stars sliding past in silent procession. Alara finally spoke again, breaking the quiet. "You're probably wondering why I am here, traveling alone under disguise. The truth is, some things cannot wait for diplomacy. Some threats do not announce themselves before they strike." He realized she wasn't just giving him a seat. She was giving him a chance. A chance to prove what humans could do even in the darkest, most unlikely circumstances. As the ship moved deeper into space, the station behind them became nothing more than a memory. The future stretched out ahead, unknown and dangerous, yet full of possibility. Eli tightened his grip on the armrest, ready for whatever lay ahead. Somehow, against all odds, he had a seat, and beside him the princess had reached for his hand. The hum of the engines, the glitter of stars, and the quiet, steady presence of Princess Alara gave him an unshakable feeling. This journey was no ordinary trip through space. It was the beginning of something extraordinary. Something that could change not just his life, but the life of humanity itself. And Eli, for the first time in his life, felt ready to meet it. The ship glided silently through the darkness, its engines a soft murmur beneath the hum of the cabin. Outside, stars stretched endlessly, a glittering canvas that both inspired awe and reminded passengers of their smallness. Eli could not sleep. He had spent the last few hours staring out the window, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. How had he, an ordinary engineer, ended up on a ship with Princess Alara, traveling alone into the unknown? The thought made him both anxious and strangely exhilarated. Alara sat across from him in the observation lounge, her posture relaxed but alert. She had removed her outer robe, revealing a simple uniform beneath, functional yet clearly high quality and designed for mobility. Her eyes tracked the stars, but occasionally flicked toward him, as if measuring his thoughts. Eli shifted uncomfortably, feeling out of place in a world that was suddenly much larger than he had imagined. "You've been quiet," she said, finally breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, measured, but carried an undercurrent of curiosity. Most engineers talk constantly, especially when they are nervous. There are forces moving in the galaxy, things that watch us, study us, and test us. My mission is simple, to learn more about them and to ensure humanity is ready for what may come. That mission has become urgent. But patience is not the same as harmlessness. I'm saying that humans have a unique ability to adapt, improvise, and solve problems that cannot be predicted. And you, Eli Marin, are particularly skilled at it. Your experience may seem ordinary to you, but I have reasons to believe it is exactly what is needed for what lies ahead. He had spent years building engines, fixing circuits, and designing systems, all in relative obscurity, and now somehow his skills were part of a mission that could affect countless lives across the galaxy. The thought was overwhelming. He leaned back, studying the stars. And what if I fail? But I have a feeling you won't fail. Eli walked to the control console nearby, curiosity winning over hesitation. He examined the panels, screens, and readouts, noting small anomalies in the engine data and navigation systems. Some were minor errors that could be ignored, but a few readings troubled him. "Princess," he said, beckoning her over, "there are fluctuations in the primary sensor array. They're small but consistent. Something is affecting our path, or at least monitoring it closely. We are being observed, perhaps even tested, and we must remain unpredictable." Perhaps this was just another test, and perhaps he could rise to it. Hours passed, the ship cruising smoothly, though tension hung like a quiet storm. Alara spoke occasionally about political situations in the colonies, diplomatic unrest, and the need for humans to be ready for the unknown. She explained that the galaxy was full of civilizations, some benign, some indifferent, and some potentially hostile. Most humans did not notice these subtleties, but she had learned to recognize them, and now she was teaching Eli. "You have to understand," she said softly, "humanity's strength is not just in our technology. Other civilizations may have more advanced engines, weapons, or sensors. But we have something they often underestimate: creativity, adaptability, and courage. You will see that soon enough." Perhaps success required more than calculations. It required imagination, improvisation, and the ability to think beyond what the instruments told him. As the stars streaked past, a sudden alert flashed across the console. Eli's eyes widened. "Princess, look at this. Something is moving near our trajectory." Unknown signatures, not in the charts, not matching any human or known alien vessel. Shapes moved in a way that suggested intelligent design, not natural phenomena. Something or someone was out there and they were watching. "They're studying us," Eli said, his voice low. "They know we're here. We are human, and humans think differently from anything they expect." Eli and Alara worked together, reviewing data, plotting the ship's course, and discussing strategies for potential encounters. Their conversation was more than technical, it was philosophical. They spoke of human nature, the power of collaboration, and the importance of courage when facing the unknown. At one point, Eli glanced at Alara and realized he had begun to see her differently. Not just as royalty or as someone important, but as a human being, resourceful, intelligent, fearless, and willing to take risks. Someone who trusted him when no one else had. And that trust, fleeting though it might have seemed, carried immense weight. The quiet of space was suddenly interrupted by a subtle vibration. The ship's sensors picked up a faint energy pulse, a ripple in the void. Eli's heart raced. "Another anomaly," he whispered. "It's closer now." The unknown stretched before them, a vast expanse of possibility and danger. And yet, for the first time in his life, he felt fully engaged, fully alive, fully part of something larger than himself. They spent the next hours monitoring the approaching energy signals, working in tandem with the ship's AI, while also testing systems that had not been challenged before. Eli suggested small adjustments, improvisations based on old engineering manuals, intuition, and human ingenuity. Alara observed quietly, occasionally offering insight or asking questions, but mostly letting him work. By the time the ship entered a region of denser star clusters, the signals had become more defined. Shapes emerged on the sensors, strange, angular vessels moving with precision. Eli realized they were dealing with something intelligent, something capable of studying and responding to human actions. "This is it," Alara said softly. "The first true encounter, and we are not unprepared because humans are unpredictable. Remember that, Eli, that is our edge." He had always solved problems within defined rules, constraints he could calculate and control. Now he faced a challenge without clear rules, without predictable outcomes. But he had Alara at his side, and he had the ingenuity of the human mind. And somehow that was enough. As the alien shapes moved closer, the stars around them glittered with silent promise. Eli adjusted the controls, ran simulations in his head, and began preparing for whatever came next. He was no longer just a passenger. He was part of a mission that could define humanity's place among the stars, and for the first time he felt ready to rise to it. Alara reached over and touched his arm briefly, a silent reassurance. "We will face this together," she said. "And we will show them what humanity can do." The ship moved forward, deeper into the unknown, carrying not just passengers but the hope and ingenuity of an entire species. And Eli, beside Princess Alara, felt the impossible beginning to feel possible. The ship's sensors flared with alerts, subtle but insistent. Eli's hands moved quickly over the controls, trying to make sense of the data. Shapes were appearing, moving in ways no human vessel ever had. Sharp angles, sudden accelerations, and precise maneuvers, they were not natural objects. They were intelligent, controlled, and they were closing in fast. "Princess," Eli said, his voice tense but steady, "they're approaching us. Their speed, it's unlike anything we've trained for. They're studying our movements, learning as we move." He had never faced anything like this, yet somehow he knew she was right. The alien vessels would respond to predictable actions, but humans could think beyond the expected. The first encounter came suddenly. A series of flashes on the sensors indicated the aliens had fired a pulse at the ship, not a weapon as humans knew it, but a scanning probe. The probe passed through the outer shield, bouncing harmlessly, but its effects rippled across the ship's systems. Lights flickered, displays wavered, and minor alarms echoed through the cabin. "Damage control," Eli shouted. "Check power conduits and stabilize the core." Panels opened, circuits were rerouted, and warnings silenced one by one. The AI assisted, but Eli noticed its behavior was unusual. It hesitated at certain commands, processing cautiously rather than automatically. Something was interfering with its normal protocols. Alara moved among the crew with quiet authority, giving orders and helping manage panic. She did not shout or demand compliance. Her presence alone commanded respect, and the humans around her responded instinctively, working faster and more efficiently. Eli watched her for a moment, realizing she had taught him a subtle but critical lesson. Leadership was not about dominance. It was about trust, confidence, and focus. The aliens' approach became more aggressive. Their vessels moved in formation, attempting to anticipate every maneuver. Eli adjusted the ship's trajectory, weaving through the empty space with sudden changes in velocity. "They're predicting standard evasive patterns," he said. "We need something different. Randomize, improvise. Let them see something they cannot understand." "They can't adjust fast enough," Eli said, a thrill running through him. We're ahead." Eli worked the engines, monitoring every fluctuation, rerouting energy, and adjusting shields with precise but unconventional solutions. Alara directed the crew, issuing concise orders and maintaining calm in the cabin. Together, they formed a team that no alien algorithm could fully anticipate. The aliens escalated their tactics. Small energy pulses struck near the ship, creating localized gravitational distortions that threatened to destabilize the hull. Eli felt the vibrations through the floor, a low rumble that spoke of immense power. He rerouted shields and stabilized the ship, his mind racing faster than it had ever raced before. "Princess," he said, "if they hit the core, we could lose power completely. I need to initiate a secondary sequence, reroute propulsion through auxiliary channels." The vibrations rocked the cabin, throwing unsecured items across the floor, but the ship held. Eli exhaled sharply. He felt a rush of pride. This was more than engineering. It was improvisation, creativity, courage, all combined in a single moment of survival. Alara approached him again, her expression serious but approving. "You are performing beyond expectation," she said. "Do not forget this feeling. Humans often underestimate what we can achieve when the situation demands it." The thought gave him both hope and fear. Hope because humans could survive, fear because the challenge would only grow. Suddenly, a sharp alarm sounded. The aliens had launched a series of small drones, each moving independently, scanning and mapping the ship's shields, engines, and weapon systems. Eli and Alara exchanged a glance. This was the true test. The drones were too fast and too numerous for conventional countermeasures. Eli's mind raced. He could try to disable them with the ship's weapons, but each pulse could trigger a reaction. He needed a plan that the aliens would not expect. He glanced at the engineering schematics in his mind, remembering an old protocol designed for emergency power rerouting. If he could manipulate the energy fields, he could create a false signature. A decoy the drones would follow, leaving the ship itself unscathed. "Princess," he said, "we can trick them. I can generate a phantom energy signature, redirecting their sensors away from the ship. Make them see what they should not see." "Got them," Eli whispered. Relief washed over him. The immediate threat was neutralized, and the ship could finally breathe again. Alara placed a hand on his shoulder. "You see, humans are unpredictable. We adapt, we improvise, and when others underestimate us, we survive and succeed." He looked at the princess, realizing he had never met anyone like her. She was not only brave and intelligent, but she understood the value of human potential in a way few ever did. Together, they had turned a desperate situation into an advantage. The immediate danger passed, but Eli knew this was only the first encounter. The aliens were studying them, learning, testing, probing for weaknesses. Their strategy had worked this time, but the challenge would continue. And yet, for the first time, Eli felt a surge of confidence. Humans had survived countless hardships, adapted in ways no other species could, and he had just seen that power firsthand. Alara and Eli spent the following hours analyzing the alien tactics, mapping out possible strategies, and preparing for future encounters. She shared her insights about alien intelligence, predicting patterns, and the importance of thinking creatively. Eli realized that the real battle was not just physical, it was mental. The aliens would respond to patterns, but humans could create new ones, forge unexpected solutions, and remain one step ahead. By the time the ship approached a stable trajectory beyond the immediate threat, the cabin had quieted. Crew members were exhausted but safe, reassured by the calm efficiency of their leaders. Eli leaned back, rubbing his tired eyes, and allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. He had survived a first real encounter with the unknown. He had improvised, adapted, and succeeded. And through it all, he had learned that human ingenuity was more than a skill. It was a weapon, a shield, and a promise. Alara joined him at the observation deck, standing silently as the stars stretched into streaks of light. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "They will learn, they will adapt, but so will we. And humans always find a way." As the stars passed by, he realized that the galaxy was full of unknown challenges, dangers, and opportunities. And for the first time in his life, he felt fully capable of facing them. Not as a passenger, not as an observer, but as a human being, unpredictable and brilliant, ready to meet whatever came next. The alien vessels receded into the distance, leaving only faint signals behind. Eli exhaled, exhaustion and exhilaration mingling. He turned to Alara. What now? The galaxy was vast, mysterious, and dangerous, but for the first time he felt ready to meet it head-on. And he knew that beside him, Princess Alara would be there every step of the way. The ship drifted in the dim glow of a nearby star, its engines weak and systems strained. Eli ran his hands over the console for the 100th time, checking circuits, scanning energy outputs, and rerouting power where it was needed most. Every system was operational, but only barely. One misstep could leave them stranded in an unknown sector of the galaxy, vulnerable and exposed. Princess Alara stood nearby, observing quietly. She had not taken her eyes off the screen since the encounter with the alien vessels. Her presence was steady, calm, but Eli could sense her mind racing, calculating risks, anticipating every possible outcome. He had always admired her composure, but now, in the quiet hum of a weakened ship, her focus inspired a sense of urgency. "We'll need to make repairs on the hull," Eli said finally, breaking the silence. "Some of the structural supports were damaged by the energy pulses. The auxiliary systems can keep us stable for a while, but it's not enough for long-term survival. Make use of whatever we have on board." He moved quickly, opening panels and inspecting the damage. Some conduits had burned out, others were bent from the ship's sudden maneuvers. He thought about the components he had studied, the schematics memorized, and the manual he had read countless times. Then he set aside the conventional approaches. This was no ordinary repair. This required human creativity, intuition, and courage. "Eli," Alara said, her voice calm but commanding, "we cannot afford mistakes. Every decision counts. Trust your instincts and do not hesitate to act." Every adjustment he made, every repair he improvised, could make the difference between life and death. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the hum of the auxiliary engines and the soft beeps of the consoles. Eli worked tirelessly, rerouting power through damaged conduits, reinforcing structural supports with improvised braces, and testing every system to ensure it could withstand future attacks. Alara moved among the crew, coordinating repairs, offering guidance, and quietly inspiring confidence. Despite the exhaustion, Eli felt a strange exhilaration. He was no longer just an engineer. He was a problem solver, an innovator, and a vital part of a mission that could define humanity's place in the galaxy. Every challenge forced him to think creatively, adapt rapidly, and trust his instincts. Suddenly, the ship's sensors flared again, this time indicating movement nearby. Eli's heart skipped a beat. The alien drones had returned, scanning the area with precision, testing the ship's defenses once more. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Alara said, her voice steady. "But remember, predictable patterns will be our undoing. We must act in ways they do not expect." They were fast, intelligent, and relentless, but they relied on patterns and repetition. Humans, however, could create the unexpected. He began rerouting power to the thrusters, preparing a series of sudden, irregular maneuvers designed to confuse the drone's sensors. "On my mark," he said, his hands flying over the controls. 3, 2, 1. "Our unpredictability is working." "Princess," he said, "we need to establish a sustainable repair cycle. The hull, the engines, the energy conduits, everything needs attention. I can lead small teams, but will need cooperation from the entire crew. We must ensure everyone understands their role and trusts your judgment." The crew responded quickly, inspired by his confidence and Alara's calm authority. As repairs progressed, Eli began to notice subtle patterns in the alien drones' behavior. They were intelligent but predictable in their curiosity. They scanned, observed, and withdrew when faced with unexpected responses. This knowledge became a tool. He designed a series of decoy signals and small energy pulses to divert attention, allowing repair teams to work without interference. "Eli," Alara said quietly, approaching him, "your analysis is brilliant. You are using human creativity to turn the situation in our favor." We find solutions where others see only obstacles. The crew worked tirelessly under Eli's guidance, reinforcing the ship's hull, recalibrating energy conduits, and repairing damaged systems. Alara coordinated from the command deck, issuing concise instructions, maintaining morale, and ensuring that every human effort was maximized. Together, they transformed a damaged, vulnerable ship into a vessel capable of defending itself and continuing its journey. Finally, as the artificial light dimmed to simulate night, Eli took a moment to rest. He sat beside a viewport, watching the alien stars stretch endlessly ahead. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment, tempered by the knowledge that the challenges were far from over. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and dangerous, but he now understood that human ingenuity was a weapon no machine, or alien intelligence, could fully anticipate. Alara joined him silently, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You've done well, Eli. Today, we survived not just because of technology, but because of human ingenuity. Never forget that. It is our greatest strength." The unknown awaited them, and it would not be forgiving. But for the first time, he felt confident, not because he had all the answers, but because he knew humans could adapt, improvise, and prevail where others would fail. The ship drifted through the silent void, carrying humans who were small in size but immense in potential. Eli felt a sense of connection with every person aboard, realizing that each contributed to the survival and strength of the group. And beside him, Princess Alara represented the best of humanity: bravery, intelligence, and the ability to inspire others to rise above fear and uncertainty. A sudden alert flashed on the console, drawing their attention. New signals had appeared on the sensors, faint but unmistakable. Eli's heart raced. The aliens had returned, probing again, perhaps more cautiously this time. "Prepare the ship," Alara said, her voice steady but tense. "We may have survived the first encounter, but the next will be different. This time, we must be ready not just to react, but to anticipate." As the alien signals grew stronger, Eli felt a surge of determination. He would not be passive. He would act, create, and defend. He would use every skill, every scrap of knowledge, every spark of human ingenuity to protect the ship and everyone aboard. Alara watched him with quiet admiration. "Humans," she said softly, "are not just survivors. We are thinkers, innovators, and problem solvers. And together, we are unstoppable." And Eli, beside Princess Alara, knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together, with ingenuity, courage, and the unshakable strength of being human. The unknown waited, and humans were ready. The ship floated in the dim glow of a distant star, its hull battered but intact. Eli ran his hands over the console, eyes darting between displays, tracking every anomaly in real time. Princess Alara stood beside him, her posture calm, but her eyes sharp and unblinking. The alien vessels were back, more numerous and precise than before. They moved like shadows across the void, scanning, probing, testing. Every instinct screamed danger, yet Eli felt a strange surge of determination. "This is it," Alara said quietly. "We face them now. They have studied us long enough. It is time to show what humans can do." The first alien pulse struck near the ship, sending vibrations through the hull. Alarms blared and the crew flinched, but Eli stayed focused. He adjusted the shields, rerouting power to reinforce critical points. The AI monitored and assisted, but it was clear that the alien systems had the advantage in raw speed and calculation. The humans, however, had unpredictability. That was their edge. Alara moved among the crew, issuing calm, precise instructions. "Focus on your tasks. Trust in the ship, but trust in yourselves more. Humans survive because we adapt. Remember that." Each pulse, each maneuver followed predictable sequences until humans acted in ways they could not predict. That was his plan. He had an idea, risky and untested, but it was the only chance they had. "Princess," he said, "I can create a series of phantom signals like last time, but on a larger scale. I can make the aliens think there are multiple ships, decoying them away from us. But I'll need complete control of the power systems, and it may push the ship to its limits." The ship seemed to shudder under the strain, lights flickering, panels beeping, but the sequence continued. On the sensors, multiple phantom ships appeared, mimicking their movement, even sending false energy signatures that suggested weapons and shields. The aliens reacted instantly. Their vessels moved toward the decoys, scanning and adjusting, but each decision took time. Eli held his breath as the real ship maneuvered silently, undetected amidst the chaos of illusions. "They've taken the bait," he whispered, a thrill running through him. "It's working." They will adapt quickly. Suddenly, one of the alien vessels broke formation, attempting to probe the ship directly. Eli's heart raced. He needed to act fast. He initiated a secondary energy pulse, overloading the vessel's sensors with false data. Sparks of light flashed across the view screen as the alien ship retreated, disoriented. Alara's voice cut through the tension. Excellent. Humans think differently. That is our advantage. Do not forget it. The aliens launched wave after wave of probes, each met with human ingenuity. Eli rerouted power, improvised defensive measures, and manipulated the decoy signals. Alara coordinated the crew, keeping everyone focused and calm. The combination of strategy, courage, and unpredictability began to show results. The aliens hesitated, unsure how to proceed, their intelligence challenged in ways they had not expected. Finally, Eli saw an opening. The alien formation was split, some vessels distracted by decoys, others recalculating their approach. He turned to Alara. We can strike a coordinated signal back at them. If timed correctly, it could confuse their central control and force them to retreat. For the first time, they hesitated in unison, a pause that signaled opportunity. Now, Eli shouted. The crew followed the sequence, amplifying the decoy signals and reinforcing the ship's shields. The alien vessels, unable to adapt fast enough, retreated. Sensors confirmed their departure. The immediate danger was over. Silence filled the cabin. Crew members exhaled, leaning back in relief, exhaustion, and triumph mingling on their faces. Eli slumped against the console, sweat on his brow, chest heaving. He had done it. They had survived. Humanity had survived. Alara approached him, her expression one of quiet pride. You see, Eli, humans are not just capable, they are extraordinary. We do not rely solely on strength or speed. We rely on ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. That is why we endure. The crew began assessing the damage, repairing what could be repaired, and planning for the next stage of the journey. Despite exhaustion, morale was high. They had faced overwhelming odds and survived, thanks to collaboration, improvisation, and the human spirit. Eli found a moment to stand beside Alara at the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, a reminder of both the vast unknown and the potential that lay within humanity. You were right, he said quietly. Humans can surprise even the most intelligent opponents. We survive. Eli took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. He had faced the unknown, improvised, and survived. More importantly, he had discovered the true power of human potential. Alara reached over, gently taking his hand. We have proven that humans are not to be underestimated, she said softly. And together, we will continue to show the galaxy what we are capable of. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and intelligence far beyond their own, and yet they had triumphed, not through raw power, but through ingenuity, courage, and cooperation. Eli realized that this journey was more than a mission. It was a testament to what humans could achieve when they relied on each other and on their own unpredictable brilliance. They were not the fastest, the strongest, or the most advanced, but they were human, and humans always found a way. As the stars streaked past, Eli felt a sense of hope and purpose he had never known. The galaxy was vast, mysterious, and dangerous, but it was also full of opportunity. Humans would face challenges, yes, but they would endure, adapt, and prevail. The ship sailed on, its course set for the next destination, its crew ready for whatever lay ahead. And Eli, standing beside Princess Alara, knew that the future was not something to fear, but something to meet with ingenuity, courage, and the unshakable strength of being human. The galaxy awaited, and humans were ready.